We care is becoming ever more important to all of us, especially when we talk about we care in the barns. It's extremely important as we work with our employees and all of those people throughout production. You know, we've talked about we care for several years now, and it's changed a lot. It's grown a lot, and we're very proud of that. And I'm really excited about this new resource because I worked long and hard on it, number one. Number two, it's always great to see a finished product. And number three, it's something that you can take home with you and use tomorrow, and it's a great opportunity for all of you. We did send out some cards when you walked in. Those cards are available if you want to sign up, give me some information, as well as if you would like some of these posters. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but make sure that we hand those cards in if you're interested in the resource as we talk about it. So obviously our industry has changed quite a bit, right? And the changes aren't always easy to accept. Our consumers, our customers out there, they think of the family farm, maybe back to grandfather or great-grandfather that had a few pigs, a few chickens, and a small plot of land. And some farming has changed. Some obviously still works the same. However, we've got larger farms now, and that change has kind of really become somewhat unnatural for people and uncomfortable. We've brought pigs inside, which creates new challenges when you're looking at a consumer. We've got biosecurity signs and keep out signs because we want to keep those animals healthy as possible. And so there's those questions that really have come up. And what comes with those are the questions from consumers on different issues. But like everything, pork production has changed. So think about grocery stores. You don't go to a butcher shop or get fresh produce at several different stores. Right now, you can go to Walmart and do everything. Walmart's amazing. You can get your oil changed. You can get your groceries. You can get, Walmart's awesome, right? You can get everything. I went there. I made a big trip last night, and I got all sorts of stuff. And most importantly, candy. That's really important. But, pork production has changed, and we're very proud of the changes that we've made. We've moved forward. But with those changes comes questions. This is the Pork Board vision statement. Leading a world-class food industry. Responsible, sustainable, professional, and profitable. Well, obviously, that's extremely important. First off, we need to be responsible. When We Care kind of started, we kind of started off talking about it as the Responsible Pork Initiative. We need to take that responsibility in and bring it into our industry and really think about all of the things that encompass it. And that's kind of where We Care was born. Obviously, sustainability is extremely important. We talked about it throughout the pork board regularly. It was kind of our theme of sustainability and continuous improvement this year for our World Pork Expo, our booth and things. Professional, we're growing that professionalism, and that's exciting to see. We're not just those farmers with the overalls anymore. We are true businessmen and women, and we have to make those decisions. And so with that professionalism comes with, obviously, some major advantages. And we always want to be profitable, right? Everybody wants a little change in their pocket. This is a producer from South Dakota, and he was quoted as saying, when I talk to people outside of agriculture about pork production, their mindset is troubling. They just don't know. The fact is, as an industry, we need to tell them the important role we play in raising animals and providing a safe, nutritious food supply. Now, that's extremely important and a great quote. Paul is a good friend of mine, and I'm excited to see his passion for our industry. And that's what we really need to do, is we need to show our passion throughout our industry and continue it down to all levels of production. My father is extremely passionate, but does he take it down into those people who are working on the weekends for him so he can come and enjoy World Pork Expo? Maybe not. So what do we do to really get into the impact? You guys are all here today, and that's excellent. And so you have the opportunity to learn. But make sure that when you're going back home, we need to spread that message. Talk about what you learned. Talk about those take-home messages. Talk about those ideas, those concepts that you were so fortunate to learn this week. We Care is made up of specifically 6 ethical principles. And they're all basic practices that have a lot of different components inside of them. One of our most unique is community. We talk a lot about public health and food safety a lot. Animal care obviously is at the top of everybody's mind. And our community aspect is extremely important. We do a lot in our communities as pork producers, and we've tried to measure it. However, as a pork producer, I might volunteer to coach Little League or be a volunteer firefighter, but I don't view it as community outreach. And so we really have to think of We Care as a whole concept. So here's the idea. We have to uphold those industry principles, and these are the We Care ethical principles. Every individual needs to obviously think about these. So producing safe food, protect and promote animal well-being, ensure practices to protect public health, safeguard our natural resources in all of our practices, and provide a work environment that is safe and consistent with our other ethical principles. Now, most of these seem pretty basic in their major views, right? We think about these things, but do we think about them every day? Do we really talk about all of the things that kind of add up to this? And that's where it gets really interesting. We know that we want to provide that safe, wholesome food product, right? Because that's the end goal. That's what we want to do. That's why we're pork producers. But all of the little steps that go throughout that is extremely important. Obviously, if that animal isn't taken care of well, it's not going to produce as well. And we know that. So all of those little steps underneath here. And so that's what it's come back to, is we've got these beautiful ethical principles, but what are we doing to really ensure that we're checking the boxes, that we're thinking about them all the time? Again, the last one is communities, and it's extremely important. Probably something that stands out a little bit different from the other ones, but we have to think about being good neighbors, and that's where We Care is really interesting. We have to continue to be good neighbors, to talk to our neighbors, and to reach out to them and be, responsible with them. If your daughter is getting married in your pasture and the field next to you gets applied manure, obviously that's not a great relationship with your neighbor. It will ruin your daughter's wedding. You can ask my sister. But you make do, right? We were farm kids. We had a bunch of farming families, so I guess we were all okay. But that conversation would have been really nice to have. It was a dairy producer. Just kidding. So we care credibility. Promises are just words if they're not backed up with a credible documentation and action. One thing that we have focused on is really that proof factor. We care, but what? So how many of you are PQA Plus certified? How many of you know if your site is assessed? Quite a few of you? Awesome. If you don't, that's a great way for us to show proof or commitment to our industry and to the ethical principles. So we need to really reach out and get those types of proofs so we can take that back to our customers and consumers and those who are making decisions, our influencers out there, and really tap into that. That PQA Plus program is something that we talk about far and wide throughout our entire office. 6 ethical principles, but where's the beef? Where's all of the items that we can put in here that can help us talk about it to all stages of our industry? And from Hormel all the way to those who are trucking those animals to Hormel, for example, and those who are power washing the barns, we need to make sure that we're really encompassing all of those people in our production practices with We Care, as well as things like PQA Plus and TQA. I realize that, no, it's probably not as fun to sit through a 2-hour class all the time. And yeah, we understand that absolutely. But it is educational, and it's educational as you make it. And so soaking up that information is extremely important. As a PQA Plus advisor, I understand that I can make it extremely boring as we go through the slides, but I also can make it extremely interactive and try to make sure that we're really seeing the bigger picture. So what does We Care look like on the farm? And that's the question that we've really asked ourselves over the last few years. And specifically in the last 6 months, which is where this idea of the barn boasters kind of came from. And we talked about we need to have something that's available for all stages of production. We need to get it into the barns, into the hands of employees, and really focus on what they're doing, because they're the ones who are working with those pigs every day. As a manager of a facility, I have a lot of other responsibilities, but those people are really focusing on the care of those animals every day, or the environmental aspects, etc. So we need to really look at, from a farm level, what's happening. So how do we share our message? Well, obviously, you each, when you entered here, got this We Care brochure. This is available at our National Pork Board office. It's a great general piece, and it's a great piece to have in your back pocket. It talks a little bit about where We Care started and where and what it is, and it's just that basic general overview. This one is specifically different because you can customize it for your operation. And I bring this to you guys because it's a great piece. It's customizable, so things that you're doing on your farm. On Gamblin Acres, we may be doing something that's very, very different. We have 3 OMS speakers, and we're trying to get 2 speeches every week out into our community, or every month out into our community. So that's something that we can note and really customize for you. I'm in charge of the customization, so if you're interested, jot down my email address or talk to me afterward, and I'd be happy to get those into your hands. Customizable with pictures, etc. So we've checked on our progress, and so every year at the National Pork Board we do an annual survey, and we ask a variety of different questions, and one of them focused on We Care. And we asked if producers had heard of We Care, and we really are at about 58%. Now, we need to make a bigger impact, and we know that. There's a lot of pork producers out there and a lot of employees, around 68,000 according to USDA, so we need to make that bigger impact. We need to talk to people throughout production. When you talk about specifically the ethical principles, only 20% could actually name one of the ethical principles. You go through all 6 of them every once in a while, you might forget one, but so we need to do a better job. So we need to realign our focus. We need to continue to educate throughout our barns. And that's where we're at today. We need to continue that education. We need to continue just the general awareness of We Care and all the things that are impacting on your daily life. So this new resource, the We Care Barn Worker Kit, has an overall theme of they're counting on you. And whether it be the producer, the employees as worker safety, they're counting on you guys to train them effectively in worker safety. Those pigs that you're providing care for, they're counting on you to provide food, water, and all of those daily things. The environment, your neighbors are counting on you to protect the environment. So that's kind of where our theme went. And it's made a great impact. The resource that we have available, and I have some examples over here, that's a full set. There's one poster that's highlighting each one of the ethical principles. They are very large and in charge over there if you'd like to see them. They're laminated. We practiced power washing them. They survived. So they are great to be inside of your barn, inside of your offices. We did some durability testing because I have been in some barns. I know what it takes. So we're very excited about that. The specific thing that's really interesting is we created an awareness guide. And where we went with this is I know how to talk about We Care because I've been trained in it for about 5 years now. And I'm getting very comfortable talking about it. But if you're sitting here today and maybe this is the first or second time you're hearing about it, it might not be quite as easy. And you might not always have the opportunity for myself or one of our staff to come into your operation and talk. So this awareness guide is basically a nice little package, and it breaks it down by ethical principle. So if you have a monthly meeting or a weekly meeting or maybe a bi-monthly meeting in your operation, that you can bring that in and separated out by ethical principles. So if you have a bi-monthly meeting, every other month, you're going to have one ethical principle you're going to focus on. So whether that's environment this week or animal care, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to break it down and really focus on the things that you can control. So when you're talking about animal care, are you PQA Plus certified? Well, many of you guys raised your hands. So yes, that's something that you're done with. But let's make sure that when you need to recertify, that we're re-upping that. Do you have your farm site assessed? If you don't, absolutely, let's get that done. And let's make that an internal type of system. So how can we look at our operation maybe a little bit more often? It might not be somebody outside, a PQA Plus advisor coming in, but if you as a manager, or maybe you select an employee that says, you know, every once in a while, every 2 weeks, why don't we look around and make sure that we have things in line? Waters start to drip. A bolt comes undone, so a gate's loose. Those things, you get one or two here and there, and pretty soon in a few months, it seems like you got a lot of repairs. So how can we make sure that we're doing things at an easy level? We're doing them as they come up versus hitting them all at once, which seems to happen a lot here at my family farm. The other thing that's really interesting about the awareness guide is that it connects key production indicators, KPIs. I'm trying not to speak in acronyms because I get yelled at by my communication staff. So key production indicators. So how can we make some type of benchmarking? We all like rewards, right? Whether it be pizza on Friday or ice cream, bacon ice cream maybe. So we want to make sure that we have something that you can kind of work towards. And so one of the things we've connected those key production indicators to set some benchmarking goals, as well as do some tracking, some goal setting. So in those meetings, we're kind of stepping you through that process. So how to introduce We Care, how to specifically talk about the ethical principle that's at hand this week or this month, and then what can we do within our industry, and what can we do within our barns. I did a presentation for a group in Minnesota and talked to them about this a little bit because they were one of the companies that I had an idea. I wanted to make sure that it would work in the barns, and they made it a contest. They said, if we could make this a contest between our sow barns, this could be awesome. Evidently, Minnesota's pretty competitive in everything but football. So I'm pretty excited. Sorry, I married an Iowa fan. It's rubbed off. But this awareness guide is very, very interesting. And it's going to be helpful in the barns. The other thing we did is that they're available in both Spanish and English. We realized that that's a need in our barns, and so when we can get them both in Spanish and English, both the same size, they're separate posters. So if you need both, you can hang both of them up there. We didn't do the front and back, which is something that we seem to usually do, because obviously they're both important. So you can order if you're interested in them, if you want some. Make sure that you note that you want 5 sets in English and 5 sets in Spanish or what have you, and we'll make sure that we get those for you. And we really just want to bring that to the forefront. These will be available at porkstore.pork.org or by calling our service center. Otherwise, if you're interested and maybe you're not sure how many you need to get, take that sheet. You can always mail that back to the pork board and we will get it to you. So those are, again, ready. We got about 300 of them, 300 sets in our basement and at the pork board, so we're ready to ship whenever you guys are interested. So again, I wanted to break down the ethical principles a little bit to show you kind of where we've pieced information together. So our first one is to produce safe food. Obviously, a very entertaining idea. It's probably the most encompassing of all of them because that's really the end goal. So the first one is obviously attain PQA Plus certification. Again, extremely important. A great program. It's ever-changing. It's going through a rewrite currently. So in 2013, here at World Pork Expo, we'll launch it. It's a continuous improvement program, and we want to focus on the fact that It's always changing. The other thing about PQA Plus is that it's really realigning itself with the We Care ethical principles, because our industry sees how extremely important We Care is to our industry. So if we can get PQA Plus to encourage and incorporate a little bit more of our ethical principles, that's always great as well. The other steps obviously follow on-farm biosecurity measures. We've had several PERS sessions here at Pork Academy, and PERS obviously brings up issues of biosecurity. So biosecurity being extremely important when food safety comes into mind. And then we can step through each one of these, which is extremely important to our industry, and you can always add information. So if there's something that's specific to your farm, something that you already measure, or something that you feel like you need to, you can customize those as well. Protect and promote animal well-being. Again, some of these are going to be repetitive because they go across the board to several different ethical principles. However, other things are simple as make sure your pigs have feed and water. Other things might be something that you may not think of. We have 3 people that work on our farm. Maybe we haven't really talked about training on equipment or safety as much. So maybe that's something that we need to look into. Ensure practices to protect public health. Again, we do have a lot of PQA Plus references, so if you're not certified, you probably should get certified so you can tap into some of these. But following procedures to minimize air and water quality issues with neighbors. So we really want to make sure that we're focusing on all aspects, not only inside our barns, but outside our barns. Safeguard natural resources in all of our practices. Provide a safe work environment that is safe and consistent with our other ethical principles. We do have a lot of resources when it comes to worker safety. And we're working on an entire new set of resources because worker safety is becoming extremely apparent as an area that not only do we need to do better tracking of and training of, but we just need to bring it to a little bit to the forefront. Your operation grows, it changes, but you're not doing as much training as what maybe you need to be. When you go from 5 employees to 10 employees, think about the differences that it makes, right? And so we need to make sure that we're following OSHA guidelines and things like that. So this is an area in which we're expanding our research and our information because we see it as a need out in the field. Contribute to a better quality of life in our communities. Again, extremely important for us to talk and share our story. And that's really the message that We Care has really kind of started with, is that we need to talk a little bit more. My father is my best example because I know that he doesn't stand up in front of people, and he would absolutely panic if he had to stand where I am today. But he does a great job when he talks one-on-one to somebody. And so if you can start to tell your story to those neighbors, to the people that are in the grocery store that might ask you questions, family members. I have a mother-in-law that grew up on a dairy farm. She raised dairy for several years, but a hog farm went to build about 15 miles from their house, and she severely panicked because of the odor issues and things like this. Well, naturally, with a daughter-in-law that works for the pork checkoff, that got squashed very easily. But even people within agriculture question each other, right? And so we need to do a little bit better job of not only communicating to our consumers and our customers, but also from farmer to farmer, producer to producer. We all do things a little bit differently, but we're all very, very united, and we're all in this together as agriculture. As our surveys say, that we're about less than 1% of our industry or of the U.S. population that are involved in agriculture. So we really need to work together to spread our messages, and if we can unite, that's always important. Again, I want to talk a little bit about the resources that we have. This isn't the only resource that we have that drifts towards those barn workers or our companies in general. We have a lot of resources that are available. One of my newer job responsibilities is the fact that we have a lot of resources out there. we're just not the greatest about trying to get them to producers. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of them. If you go to www.pork.org/resources, or click the resource tab at the top middle, you'll see all sorts of stuff. From our employee care toolkit, which is an amazing toolkit with standard operating procedures. How many of you have standard operating procedures? Okay. How many of you feel like you probably should update your standard operating procedures? Absolutely. The great thing about the Employee Care Toolkit is that they allow for customization of your standard operating procedures. They're pre-written. You can tweak them to fit your operation, your barns, and go from there. Writing standard operating procedures is extremely time-consuming as well as extremely expensive. And so if we can provide those resources to you, that's great. How many of you have an operation that's growing in size? A few of you? So when you go from a few employees to 20 plus, it's going to change your human resources department. It might be that you are the human resources department, you're the owner, operator, PQA plus advisor, and you're the human resources department. So it has a section on there about how do you manage people and how do you start a human resources department. And so all of these things kind of tap into We Care. We've got a lot of resources that are available, again, all the way through our ethical principles. So we really want to make sure that you're looking for those. And don't be afraid to call us. If you think that you are interested in something, we may, be working on something that we can let you know as soon as possible when it's done, or we might have it available and we can send that to you. And all of our resources are free. Pork producers contribute to the pork checkoff, and we want to make sure that we're getting those back into your hands and that you're utilizing them. Also, myself and our outreach team are there to help you integrate them into your farm. So you're not in this alone. We want to make sure that if you need help, we'll be there, we'll come to your farm, and we'll help you through those steps. It's a big process, absolutely, as you're growing or changing or you're implementing a new item. We want to make sure that we're there to help you as much as possible. So again, that posters and awareness guide are available just to really focus on the fact that we want these to be used. They're available to you, and you can get as many sets as you absolutely would like. Again, in Spanish and English. We have some examples. I do have a Spanish example. I haven't taken it out of the box, but if you're interested in it, I will more than willing to take it out of the box. I do have one Spanish and one English. I believe that if somebody really wants to take it home, you can fight for it. And I don't have to try to load it up tomorrow. And I'll send you the awareness guide when I get back to the office, because I'm pretty sure it's sitting on my chair, because we just got these in on this morning.